I would like to shout out Brian Mason for sending me this story. They said this might be a good triple P for me to do in the future. And usually whenever people send me stuff about a triple P, I always look into it to see if it qualifies. Because sometimes I don't do a triple P, believe it or not, on every single story. They have to be very good for me to want to talk about it. And I said, I figure I'll do this one. Now, I don't know or did not know who this guy was until I read up on him. And one of the captions I see right now under this picture, it says lawyer Lin Wood, because that's his name. He says he will refuse to take a mental health test and threatens the Georgia state. And I can't read the rest of it because it cuts off. But the fact that it even says that lets you know this guy is off his rocker. Now, when I first saw this picture, I literally thought that this was 45. He almost looks like a mixture of 45 and Alec Baldwin, who has been doing some phenomenal impersonations of 45 over the last 4 years on SNL. But this is indeed a real person by the name of Lin Wood. He is a pro-Trump lawyer, and he is currently under investigation for voter fraud in Georgia. Now, what makes this interesting is that you have a lot of these 45 supporters who have been talking about voter fraud for the last few months. And this guy right here is most likely involved with voter fraud himself, because basically what happened is, before I actually get into the article, he has himself down as a Georgia and a South Carolina resident, which means it's a possibility that he voted twice in the election, which is the same thing a lot of these 45 supporters have been saying that people who supported Biden and Kamala have been doing, or other things. Meanwhile, he's most likely doing shady stuff himself, which would make him look like a hypocrite. Well, now it seems like he got caught up in his own web, his own entanglement, not to be confused with the one that was involved with Jada Pinkett Smith and August Alsina last year. But let's just go ahead and get into this. Lin Wood, one of the loudest defenders of former President Donald Trump's baseless attempts to overturn his election defeat, is under investigation by Georgia officials for potential voter fraud. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger office confirmed the investigation to NBC News in a statement Tuesday after Wood, a lawyer in Atlanta, claimed in a separate news report about the possibility that his law license could be revoked, that he'd been living in South Carolina for several months. The question is whether he was a legal resident when he voted in November, in light of an email he sent to WSB-TV reporter Justin Gray, saying he has been domiciled in South Carolina for several months. The Secretary of State's office said in an email statement, the investigation is ongoing. The office said that under Georgia law, if a person removes to another state with the intention of making it such person's residence, such person shall be considered to have lost such person's residence in this state, which technically means if he has been living in another state for several months, he's technically not a resident of that state. Why is he still labeled down as a resident of two states? Wood told WSB-TV of Atlanta, which was the first to report the investigation, that he has been a Georgia resident since 1955, but changed his residency to South Carolina on Monday. However, he told a reporter with the station in an email, I have been domiciled in South Carolina for several months after purchasing property in the state in April. So you're talking like last year. So that's coming up on a year. Wood has continued to push numerous baseless conspiracy theories that the presidential election was fraudulent, which led Twitter to suspend his account. The State Bar of Georgia investigated 2 complaints filed against him and ordered him to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, which was referring to that tagline I read for you at the beginning of this video. Wood could not be reached for comment. Of course he couldn't be reached for comment. He pretty much got caught. Now what they'll decide to do with him, who knows? See, I think it's very interesting that the people who yell the loudest has the most to hide. This guy has been screaming that there has been voter fraud for the last few months. Meanwhile, he is most likely engaging in voter fraud himself. Amazing. And I bet you he isn't the only one. I bet you there's more out there who are doing or have done the same exact thing. But their time will come, because eventually, they're going to eventually catch all of them slipping when you really think about it, when it all boils down to it. But that's going to conclude this edition of Triple P. And like, this guy's an idiot. He's an idiot. Like, he got caught up in his own mess while trying to expose others. Meanwhile, he ended up exposing himself. See, sometimes they say that silence is golden. He probably could have got away with it if he wasn't so loud. And maybe that should be a lesson for a lot of all the other 45 supporters are doing the same thing. Not saying that all of them are engaging in this, but if you know that you have been engaging in fraudulent activity like this guy has, maybe it's best that you stay quiet. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. If you haven't done so already, text the number that is linked down below so you can receive notifications every time I upload a new video.